Well, thank you so much for joining us, Andreas Fletcher. This is our second meetup of Ethereum Caracas or Caracas, Venezuela. Those interested in learning about Ethereum technology in the capital of Venezuela in Latin America. And well, let's start with the introductions, right? My name is Diana Aguilar. I'm a, I'm a journalist and well, super happy to be part of the organizing team of Ethereum Caracas. Uh, with me is Daniel Nobelsdorf and Guillermo Goncalves, who are also co-organizers and they are the founders of Ethereum Caracas. And with us is Andreas Fletcher. Thank you so much again, Andreas, for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. Thank you very much. I hope everybody is doing good too.
Well, Andreas, pre-recording, we were just talking about your credentials and how did you got into blockchain in the first place? Would you mind taking us into your background?
Do you want to know the how I actually got into blockchain and
Yeah,
Bitcoin and crypto? That's a
sure.
fun
Please
story.
tell us.
Okay, so 2013 I was a working student and my dad calls me. So he's American, he lives in the States. We talked and he basically says, do you know of Bitcoin? And I was like, no, what's Bitcoin? And he said, you let your computer do math and you get money. And me being a student, I needed money. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And I basically downloaded some software and I let my laptop do some things and I got a coffee. And by the time I got back, my laptop was smoking. So instead of making money, I just lost my laptop because it apparently destroyed my graphic cards. So I got on my cell phone, ordered a new laptop, and the next day I was like, what is Bitcoin? And that's how I got into Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. Never stopped since then, basically.
Okay, just to have this clear, you tried
I
to
tried.
to mine.
Yes.
You didn't know that you were mining, but you
No, I didn't know anything. I was like Bitcoin, make money, download, and then I did some installments, and then that's it.
Okay, that was risky business from the start. I'm glad you didn't set your father's business on fire in the
Yeah.
process.
No,
Okay,
no, no.
cool.
It was fine. And basically from there on, I don't know, read into Bitcoin, what the idea behind it is, what's the like giving the financial freedom into people's hands, and thought that was a very good idea. Back in that time, I worked at Deutsche Börse, which is the biggest European stock exchange, and I suggested, hey, why doesn't Deutsche Börse do a derivative on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was very volatile back then, and people at Deutsche Börse, they said they didn't really look into Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies back in that time. So I said I can look into it and do some research around it. And then I started 2014 as a external consultant doing blockchain research, basically for the chief innovation officer of Eurex, which is the derivative company of Deutsche Börse, and changed then 2015 to group product and business development, and did some research projects there together with the Central Bank of Germany. 2015, 2016, we actually already looked at how you could collateralize central bank money, the hottest topic nowadays. We looked at it 2015, 2016. And 2018, I had enough of enterprise and enterprise blockchains, and I said, okay, I want to go back to the roots, which is Bitcoin, but I didn't want to go into Bitcoin because Ethereum was more interesting. So I then switched to Brainbot, and ever since then, I've been a project manager for the Trustlines project that we contribute. So Trustlines overall is a bigger project. It's not owned by Brainbot, but we're contributing to it. And whatever we contribute to it, I'm basically tying up the loose ends. And that's what I do currently.
Okay, thank you for explaining that to us a little bit more with a little bit more of certainty and detail. um, but now talking about Ethereum itself, you started with Bitcoin. Okay, besides the complicated story of Bitcoin as stealing your laptop basically. How did you make the jump to Ethereum? How did you uh, get to the conclusion that Ethereum was the project that you wanted to work on?
Hmm. So, well, you have like permission blockchains and permissionless blockchains. Permission blockchain being anything that is being used in the financial industry by big corporates, like the blockchain implementations that Hyperledger provides, R3, digital assets holding. You have a very high variety of different projects within permission blockchains. The core concept of a blockchain was for me always that I do not need a trusted third party to rely on validating my transactions and having my data. And in my opinion, all of these enterprise blockchains, they have a very strong trust fundament in terms of that they have a centralized third party. Yeah, they then call it consortium chains or anything like that, but at the end, the governance of that blockchain is ruled by a contract that they have with each other. And for me, that misses the point of real decentralized and permissionless blockchains. So if you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin having like one core use case, which is payment, um, for me, it's too simple. I think Ethereum just provides a much higher variety and number of use cases that you can build onto Ethereum, that basically just gives you much more options than just simple Bitcoin transactions does. And that's why I thought Ethereum is in the future definitely better than Bitcoin, or will have more use cases built on top of Ethereum.
Excellent. And that brings us to a very interesting question. Um, okay, so you are already working with trust lines, and trust lines is described as an original Ripple idea built on Ethereum blockchain, enable permissionless mobile payments based on people-powered money.
Yes.
So yeah, that sounds quite interesting. So it's a financial solution basically built on the Ethereum blockchain.
Okay. Do you see the slide?
Yes.
Trustlines Network, you see?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so um, yeah, let's say, so what you said basically. So Trustlines, it's not built directly on Ethereum. It's an Ethereum sidechain. So quick, what is a sidechain? A sidechain is basically a copy of the logic that Ethereum has. The Ethereum virtual machine blockchain can use the same or a different consensus algorithm. We use a different consensus algorithm. We use what we call MPOS, minimal viable proof of stake. But the validator deposits that people need to stake onto, they stake it on the Ethereum chain, and that's why the value of the chain is still connected to Ethereum, and that's why we consider it to be an Ethereum sidechain, and therefore very well within the Ethereum ecospace still. So generally, trust lines, real quick disclaimer is always important. I'm talking about using a lot of financial terminology. A lot of countries have very strict regulation on how to use it. So I'm using most of the terminology that I'm using to describe everyday things that we know as payments, credit, etc. But in some countries, this may not be actual payment or a credit, etc. So that's just real quick. So the vision that Trustlines basically had, and the vision that, for example, also cryptocurrency had, was that everyone around the globe, including the 1.7 billion unbanked, can be part of the financial system and make digital payments and get credit in some way. The problem that we basically identified was that, for one, the legacy finance that we currently have on the world is either unable or unwilling to bank unbanked people or provide an alternative solution for them. People need to trust them. They're basically the trusted third party. And credit score is based on exclusive parameters that people might not fit, but they are actually creditworthy, but the banks don't agree with this. On the other hand, crypto has shown in the past that it has multiple problems. The onboarding and user experience is very, very bad. It has improved significantly over the last years, but if you basically give a crypto app into the hand of somebody that has never experienced crypto, most of the apps that are out there, people do not understand them. They don't understand what it is, how it works, etc. Also, in the onboarding experience, if you give them an app, they need some type of cryptocurrency to pay transactions for. And that's also a model that most people don't understand, because normally they either have their banks paying it or they're paying it in some monthly subscriptions, etc. Crypto itself is currently also in a state that is very highly dependent on the legacy finance, actually. So, Bitcoin was there to like kill, maybe a little too dramatic, but like to provide an alternative to the legacy finance. But if you look into how you get Bitcoin, you mostly need to have some bank account to transfer that money to a crypto exchange. That crypto exchange is also now heavily regulated in the financial industry. They need KYC, AML regulation, etc. So it feels like you're actually just at a different bank buying crypto. Right? And both of these things, we basically said, so that's still a problem, and we need to basically rely on something else, provide an alternative. So the solution is that if you look at what types there are for value or money, you can see basically that there's government money, which is also referred to as like fiat money, the same as bank money, government money being anything that is issued by central banks, bank money being anything issued by like commercial banks, so commercial bank money. And then we have commodity money, which I would say Bitcoin is commodity money too, because it has a value based on the commodity that you have. But then there's also people-powered money. So money that gets its value based on the trust of people. And that's basically already the answer. So what is people-powered money? Trustlines people-powered money, specific use case built on Trustlines. It is mutual credit based on a network of individual trust relationships. So how does that actually look like? So a trust line is basically a bilateral credit agreement between two people. In this case, Alice and Bob. Alice creates a credit line with Bob. Bob creates a credit line with Alice, and they both define the limit that they can spend, 10. So in this case, if Alice wants to pay Bob something, and in this slide it's dollars, but it could also be beer, it could be hours, it could be any denomination, that doesn't really matter. But if Alice wants to buy something from Bob and Alice doesn't have any money, she can always rely on the credit line that she has with Bob, basically issuing an IOU, which is 3 letters, but it also spells the words I owe you. So I owe you something, and transfers this value, this IOU, to Bob. And Bob now, because he received an IOU from Alice, knows that Alice owes me 5, so I can give her anything that is worth of 5 in value. This works very good for 2 people. Like I go into a store, I know the guy, I say, hey, I can pay it now, I'll pay later. Or if you need something from me, you can buy it from me and you can give me an IOU, and then credit cancels out credit. But how does this actually work with people that I don't trust? So if I meet a stranger and want to buy something from him and he says, I'm not accepting your IOU because I don't know if you're going to basically pay back, or I don't know if there's anything of value that I need from you in future. But in Trustlines, that's not a problem, because having so many people and having a mesh network of people that have trust lines with each other, you basically can find a path of trusted people, which you can ripple the IOUs over and basically pay anybody that is connected to you through friends of friends of friends, which basically looks like this. So in this slide, we have Alice paying Charlie. So she wants something from Charlie, but Charlie says, I don't know you. But that's not a problem because both of them know Bob. And Bob says that he has a credit line with Alice and he has a credit line with Charlie. Alice has a credit line with Bob. Charlie has a credit line with Bob. So both of them have a trust line with Bob. And Alice can basically ripple through Bob. Then having Alice owing Bob $5, Bob owing Charlie $5, Charlie receiving the value of $5 in an IOU, and now being able to give Alice something that is of value to her equal to the $5, anything that she wants. At the end, nobody is basically losing money here. Alice is in debt towards Bob 5, but then Bob's credit limit or available credit increases. So in the beginning, he had available 10. You can basically see it here. Now he has available 15. So he has now 5. He's 5 richer. But on the other hand, he is now owing Bob Charlie 5. So Charlie has a credit limit or credit availability of 15. So overall, the system doesn't result in somebody having less available money, but it actually levels it out because Alice owes Bob and Bob owes Charlie, and the overall availability that Bob has is exactly the same. And nobody trusts anybody, or nobody owes money to somebody that they don't trust or that they don't get trust back from them. So you could imagine Charlie not trusting Alice, not wanting an IOU from her. Well, in this case, he didn't get an IOU from her because he got an IOU from Bob. So the default risk in this case is always only limited to the people that you trust, and also only at the maximum amount of what the person has agreed in the trust line as a credit limit. So you shouldn't result in the problem of people going default because I would only create a trust line with somebody that I trust. And trust could look like different. There could be different ways of trust. There could be trust like friends and family. I know that my friend is good for 100 euros, so I'm going to borrow him 100 euros. But for like companies, if they want to use it, trust could also be embedded within a contract that they have with other people. So now Charlie basically sold something to Alice, and it worked through the multi-hop payment. In this system, we envision that nobody has to settle their debt. So it could be that, Alice buys stuff all the time from Charlie, and Bob eventually would say, Alice, you owe me a lot of money. I need it back because I need to do something with it. So we envision that debt cancels out debt into the system. So in this case, for example, Dave would want to buy something from Bob in this case, but Dave and Bob are not connected. So what's happening is that Dave is basically rippling the IOU through Charlie, and since Bob owes Charlie something, the transaction here will result in Charlie owing Bob something. But because Bob owes Charlie and Charlie owes Bob something, the debt is basically just canceled out. Okay. And this creates a world of people where the value of the money is derived of the trust relationship that they have with each other. And also the value is basically generated out of the trust, and the debt cancels out the debt that they have with each other. So then that question, is this money? So depending on which country you are in and how you would define money, but it basically creates, it's created when needed. It obtains its value from real world trust relationships, and it allows people to pay. And for me, that's criteria for money. You can use it to pay. I get it from trust. That's enough. So for use cases, we have like a lot of different use cases for which you can use trust lines. It's not only for one use case. You could use it for bill splitting. You can use it for like a time banking when you use time credits. You could use it as gift vouchers. You can use it as a trade exchange network, or like a Let's system. You could also have like microcredits, or my favorite one is the People's ATM. I like the picture. If you look down on the right side, you see it, where you basically walk up to somebody that uses Trustlines and you say, hey, I need €5 in cash. Can you give it to me? And he says, I don't know you. And then he says, yeah, but we are connected via Trustlines, and I can basically ripple you an IOU, and then you can hand it out to me. Yeah, that's one of my favorite use cases. No need for ATM machines anymore. Yeah. And for anybody interested, basically how to get started, and that's also then basically how we get into the Venezuelan project. So we have a pilot now. So Trustlines community project general, everybody can apply if they think that they want to do something that's valuable for Trustlines network as an ecosystem. They can go to trustlines.foundation. There's a grant application there and submit. And the foundation is basically the entity within the Trustlines network that is trying to not promote use cases. They're use case agnostic. They're more focusing on adoption and technology, but they're very well helpful in terms of if people like need grants, need some money to do some on-ground work, that they consider then if they would pay something out. And we have basically 3 people currently that are working on the pilot project in Venezuela, where they're going to have 3 different cases. We have Daniel Knobelsdorf, Adriana Narvaez Cote, I hope I'm speaking all the names out correctly, and Tomas Rodriguez. And basically their cases are, the first one would be aluminium or membership networks who have common values. The second one is concentrating on second level organizations that group first level organizations like NGOs, since they wave networks of trust around interested areas and people. And the third one would be geographically based communities that share the same needs and opportunities, where basically you already have a community of people that trust each other and then can use Trustlines to do hopefully everyday payments. The overall mission of this pilot project is to discover and validate the usefulness of Trustlines. So we're still in a phase where we're validating the idea of Trustlines. We believe that Trustlines is helpful for the world, but we also want to have feedback and like see communities growing and have it proven that it basically has a value for them. For you guys that are listening, and maybe want to download the app, we have a mobile application that is available for Android and iOS, and we have a Spanish translation for you. So you can use it in English, you can use it in German if you want to, but you can definitely use it in Spanish. You can just go to www.trustlines.app, click on iOS or Android, download it, and you're ready to go. You basically download the app, you create a Trustline with a friend, and then you can interact with anybody within the network as long as there is a trusted path between you and him. And you can join the WhatsApp group, the Spanish-speaking WhatsApp group, by scanning this QR code. And I think that's it. I hope that gives you all information.
Yeah. That was very cool. Thank you, Andreas, for showing us how Trustline works. So, still talking a little bit about the Venezuelan case, because this is something that is interesting for us, being from Venezuela, obviously. Is it possible for you to tell us how is right now Trustlines being tested exactly in Venezuela? Because we know that this is a very specific case. Venezuela is a very specific. We have very specific circumstances as a country. So right now, how is being tested? Is it by businesses? Are you just guys telling people, random people, to go and try it on like right now? Or how do you guys keep track of the success or failure of Trustlines in Venezuela?
So I think that's actually a better question to Daniel, Thomas, and Adriana, because they're spending basically their time and their effort on doing the pilot, and they know it better than I do. Before I'm saying anything wrong, I would like to take the joker and hand that question to them, if that's okay.
Well, sure. We want to learn.
Yeah.
That is fine with me, but yeah, I mean, we can do a super quick summary, and then I guess we can share this with the community, and I guess we can answer to the community in Spanish, which might be more helpful to the locals and to the Latin American community. But anyway, one thing that we are giving a lot of thought and action at first is actually doing some research and outreach to these potential groups, as you were seeing in these cases we outlined, which was part of the first work that we did. And this is basically because we personally had engaged with fintech and different apps and different groups from the blockchain space coming into Venezuela. Most of them haven't done any tailoring. So most of these apps are, even in some moments, they are not even in Spanish. And this is an amazing work that's been championed by the Trustline Foundation and Brainbot in terms of putting the translation out so fast since we've been having this conversation. So basically that was launched today. We're going to start having this conversation now with the people like, hey, it's in Spanish. And now, we can extend it to other people that we're probably going to have a strong barrier in those terms. And at the same time, it is all about trust. So most of the conversations we're having right now are deeply rooted in trust. So deeply rooted in say, maybe we didn't have a trust line in the app yet with them, but we already had a trust line organically, as these are some organizations we worked with before in terms of the local grassroots, local NGOs, local spaces. For example, Adriana, she's had a civic innovation lab down here in Caracas, and that is another place we had access. We are thinking about moving operations to a local co-working space, and that is just as well another space that I worked there before, and they are open to test this kind of approaches. So we are really tapping into these trust lines that we organically, before using the app, we already had to develop these pilots. And from there, we plan to grow. I mean, sharing just this conversation with Andreas to the people that will take part in the community is going to be a great aspect. So yes, it's just, nurturing the community from now on.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that update, Daniel. So, Andreas, again, thank you so much for your time today explaining to us about trust lines. And we were also diving into the use of trust lines in Venezuela. How are you guys actually testing trust lines in the country? So just a final thought from you. You already talked about the use of the Ethereum blockchain for financial uses. So how can the blockchain of Ethereum be used in mainstream adoption?
So I think that's like one of the questions that are not getting enough attention nowadays. Yeah. And they definitely didn't get enough attention the last years. Um, you don't need a blockchain. It doesn't matter if it's a permission blockchain, if it's a permissionless blockchain such as Ethereum, for every use case out there. Right? Like, you really have to evaluate if it makes sense to use a blockchain for what you are doing and what like cons and pros it has. And like, look at what you want to do, find out the pain points that you have, see if a blockchain can solve these pain points, and then check if something else can also solve these pain points. Especially the financial industry, a lot of people say that blockchains, Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc., can help with like saving a lot of money, making much faster, making things more simpler. Well, this is because the concepts and the technology being used there is very old. Like you could probably make it faster with any new technology, but like what Bitcoin or like Ethereum, cryptocurrencies, blockchain in general, like brought to the industry, financial or non-financial, was basically the opportunity to challenge what you have been doing in the past and challenging the way you have been doing it in the past. And people should focus more on that basically. Yeah, so like, what did we do in the past and how did we do it? Can we do this differently? And then, do we need a blockchain for this? Do we need Ethereum for this? For financial use cases, I think Ethereum, Bitcoin are very good solutions as long as you do not need to have trust within your, banking infrastructure. For countries like Germany, if you would walk around in Germany and you would say, hey, why don't you pay this in cryptocurrency? Pretty much 99% of the people would say, why should I do this? I have my bank account. And then you would like tell him, yeah, but you don't trust your bank. They're bad and they're centralized and they steal your money. And then the people would be, no, my banks are good. They're centralized, yes, but they're regulated and I have trust in the system. So cryptocurrency payments within Germany or Europe is not necessarily something that you need. Um, if you look at money transmission, so like sending money from the United States to Germany costs 70 euro. It doesn't matter what value it is, and it costs 70 euro. And you could argue that that's a lot of money for just one transfer. And if you look at cryptocurrencies, it's only a fraction of that. And that's basically where you then challenge the system, where you say, hey, why can something like blockchain transfer money everywhere in the world within, 10 minutes or 15 seconds, depending on what blockchain you use, and the transaction costs are so low that I question why you guys cannot make this cheaper. And I think that's like use cases where you could use cryptocurrencies in a good way. Also for countries where they have trust problems with their with their state, with their banks, or where they don't have financial infrastructure that they can rely on. So like using Ethereum, you basically only need a smartphone that is connected to the internet and you can do banking already with it. Besides the financial industry, I think identity is a good use case for blockchains, like having your identity on a blockchain, on Ethereum, being able to prove who you are without disclosing information about yourself. But primary, I think financial use cases are a good fit for blockchain and Ethereum.
Well, we'll see, right?
We'll see. There's so many. Like you can see so many stuff on Ethereum. There's so many cool stuff, and there's also so many things where you like say, seriously, is this where we're going? Crypto kitties being like a fantastic idea and fun, but the question is, do you need to have this on an Ethereum chain?
Okay, well, thank you so much again, Andreas, in the name of Ethereum Caracas Meetup, for accompanying us today.
Thank you. You guys have a good evening, or
You
I don't know
too.
what time it is.